Yes, so this is, well, those of you who've not been before to this series we've been doing over the last three, and this is the fourth week. We've been doing a little course on Sangonite around meditation and awareness, which I've been calling the anatomy of awareness. That title is to do with, well, like the anatomy of the body, what can we discover about the nature of awareness and how can this help us? So last week we were exploring this difference between what I was calling direct experience and our mentally constructed experience by doing some exercises to highlight this. So we imagined an orange, we constructed an orange mentally and reflected on the difference between that mentally constructed orange, the one in our mind's eye. We tried to use all of the senses to construct that as far as it's possible, and our knowledge of the direct experience of that orange. If we'd had an actual orange with us, we could have done the kind of could have had the full experience of the exercise by actually experiencing the orange in front of you. But I think we got the idea that our mentally constructed idea of things is different from our direct experience through the other senses. And by saying direct experience, in a way, what we're pointing to is looking from the point of view of this quality of awareness that we, all have as human beings, innate to being human, that to being alive. All alive creatures have some degree of awareness. And then we did another exercise on using the body. So we looked at different parts of the body, and at the same time as we did that, we tried to be aware of the process of going to those different parts of the body. So, I think I said the big toe of the left foot. How do you get from that idea of the big toe of the left foot to a direct experience of it? And usually what happens is we have a mentally constructed idea of that big toe, whether that's, often it's an image. You think, how do I get to my big toe? Well, we maybe have a kind of mental idea of what the body looks like, where the big toe is. We might even see, an image of the big toe, and somehow that helps us to get to that part of the body. But in meditating, we want to go from that mental construction to the actual direct sensate experience of the body. Yeah. And the purpose of this exercise was really to highlight the difference between what is mentally constructed and what is direct experience. And yes, so today we're going to go a bit further with that by doing some more exercises on this same theme, to have another look at the body in other ways. But first I wanted to just say something about why it might be useful to our meditation practice to have these exercises and approach things in this way. I might have touched on this already, the reasoning for this, but it's very difficult a lot of the time to come out of our heads. And we notice this when we come to meditate. Unless we're, rather exceptional with meditation and can just get straight into a bodily awareness and an absorption. But for most of us, it's very difficult to come out of our heads where we live most of the time. Which is an interesting thought. What is actually going on when you say we're in our heads? Well, usually it's awareness or attention is following the stream of thoughts that are going on in our minds. And the tendency to do this is, within the Buddhist tradition, is referred to as prapancha. And prapancha means something like mental proliferation. And it's the tendency when we're in our heads for one thought to lead to another thought, to lead to another thought, to lead to another thought. And we just go on and on like that. We can spend hours, even a lifetime, pretty much in this way. Thankfully, we get a rest some of the time when we're asleep, or we get a rest when we're absorbed in something that is not that. And this is why the body is such a fantastic, well, I like to call it an ally in meditation. The body is the great ally. Because we can't be in our heads in that way at the same time as being aware in the body. But what is possible coming to meditation is to carry over this mental dominance into our meditation practice. So we could end up meditating on a kind of mental representation of the breath, for instance. And the fact that we might do that could be a limiting factor on the deepening of a meditation practice. And because of that, be a limiting factor on the whole move to integration through meditation. The question might arise at this point, well, why can't you just focus on a mental object? Well, I mean, actually you can, and this is what visualization practice is about. But one thing is that when we are mentally having to construct the object, it needs to continually be there. So I don't know if you remember with the looking at the orange exercise, to hold, when you've got an orange just in front of you, you can just look at it and take it in through the other senses. And you really don't need to do very much, you've got it in front of you. But when you're trying to mentally find that orange, you've got to mentally construct the orange continually, and how quickly it evaporates and evaporates and evaporates when you're doing that. But with the body, it is there. It's very, very present. And I would even argue in this way that, the body, yes, that spiritual liberation in the end is a form of energetic release. So we might be able to get somewhere with wisdom, with spiritual insight through, using our minds, thinking about it. Certainly getting clear about things in that way is very useful. But I would argue in the end, what is holding the spiritual ignorance in place is a form of energetic or somatic contraction. So it's a bit like ignorance, isn't just held in our minds, it's also held in our bodies. Or in the soma. Soma in a way is just another way of saying the body, but it's the whole body, the body right down to the cellular level. So, paying attention to our bodies also helps with the process of the release of the contractions that which are or are represented by spiritual ignorance. And it can also, hinder attempts to become absorbed in meditation as well, to get into the dhyanas, if we are in some way still lost in kind of mental constructions of the body. So there's these two principal factors. They're called dhyana factors, in fact, when we are becoming absorbed in meditation, that start to become more apparent. So many of you have heard of these already. In the original language, in the language of Sanskrit, one of the original Buddhist languages, they're Priti and Sukha. So Priti is often translated as rapture, and Sukha is often translated as bliss, though those would be the kind of the full-on versions of those qualities. But as we're starting to become absorbed, they perhaps don't appear quite so strongly as that. And when we're looking for them, they may start just as something energetic within the body that we can notice, which would be the priti, and also other similar bodily experience which corresponds with the sukha, such as sort of deeper feelings of contentment and sort of wholeness within the body, which can arise, well, certainly in my experience, can arise out of simply just coming in to the body in a very sensate way. And you may have noticed this. I mean, it doesn't always follow. It's not a logical path, but sometimes coming into the body can be a bit of an uncomfortable process. But often when we come into the direct bodily sensations, there's a sense of satisfaction and contentment in doing that. Partly that is because the energy's gone out of the head, where it's often in a conflicted state, banging around in the head, and it's come down into the body. Yes, so in meditation, by becoming more conscious of the body in a direct sensate way, we can start to pick up on these factors, these dhyana factors of priti and sukha. There are traditionally 5 dhyana factors. There's one pointedness, ekagata, and there's also vitaka and vichara, which means something like initial. Well, often they're translated as initial and sustained thought, but something somebody pointed out to me recently is that the Buddha was fond of, when he was saying things and using words, of using similar words to describe the same thing. So one school of thought is that vitaka and vichara, these two kinds of thought, was the Buddha just saying basically, well, thinking and reflecting are going on. So those are the mental factors that we're obviously familiar with: the mind talking, thoughts coming through, etc. And as we start to become absorbed in meditation, those factors tend to subside, and the bodily based factors of priti and sukha start to come more to
Naravira.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. What you were saying was repeating itself.
Oh, was it?
You can stop now.
Oh, okay. I think we might have a microphone issue.
Yeah, sounds okay now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll carry on then, John.
Go back some sentences. Go back a couple of sentences if you could.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, John. What was the last thing you remember me saying, John?
Priti and sukha.
Okay. So, all right. So, yes, priti and sukha being two of these factors, dhyana factors, that come more to the fore as we start to become absorbed, and the mental part of our experience, thinking, tends to go more to the background. It doesn't disappear completely. Usually, doesn't disappear completely until you're either very absorbed or starting to get into some of the further dhyānas or stages of absorption. Which is a good thing to know. You know, you can still have a bit of a chattering mind going on, even as you're entering access, or even the first and second dhyānas. There may still be some mental activity, but it's gone more to the background of one's experience. Yeah. Okay, so what about tonight? So I thought tonight we could go a little bit further with some exercises to look at the body and how the body appears in direct experience, opposed to our kind of mental ideas about the body. So some of you will be familiar with doing this, and some of you maybe not. So if you're not, this may be new, but otherwise it's a chance to explore this again. And so we'll do these exercises, and then we'll have a break, and after the break we'll come back for groups. So hopefully we'll have a bit of time for groups tonight, which we didn't have last week, a bit longer as well, so that we can discuss anything that comes up tonight, but anything that's come up for us as well over the last 4 weeks of doing this short course on meditation. Yeah, so, well, you can either set up for meditation in a formal way, might be best, or, you know, whatever's comfortable for you. So, yeah, carrying on from last week's exercises where we went to the mental picture of the body, and we went from that hopefully to the direct sensate experience of the body. We'll be having a look at the body as a whole, and we'll also explore, well, the edges of the body. Anyway, I won't say too much. Let's just do this in practice and see what comes up for us. And I think maybe weave into this some chances just to feed back your experience, a bit like we were doing last week with the exercises. And yeah, and also we may go a little bit beyond the edge of the body as well. So we can try and unhook from the thinking mind. Just forget everything that's just been said. We don't actually need to remember it. So just take a few deeper breaths, or do whatever works for you to come into the meditative space. and unhooking from thinking. Come into the sensations that are apparent in the head and face. Being aware of the jaw. The lips, the eyes, but being aware from direct knowing of the sensations. So we'll pass down through the body to the lower abdomen, looking for the direct sensations as we pass down. The neck and the throat. So it can be that coming directly into the sensations of the body in and of itself can feel different. We're so used to living, as it were, in our heads. Sometimes it can be an uncomfortable process to come out of the head and into the direct experience of the body. Almost as if something doesn't want to do this. And see if we can notice the satisfaction as well that can come with being in an embodied experience. Going down to the upper chest, the area around the heart. looking for the direct sensate experience. As it actually appears. There may be some mentally constructed picture there as well to help us get to a particular part of the body. But once there, see if we can pick up on the actual sensations. The area of the diaphragm at the bottom of the rib cage. If we're having trouble finding the sensations in a particular area, it can help to imagine breathing directly into that part of the body, as if air was going straight in to the bottom of the rib cage, to the diaphragm. And down to the lower abdomen. So it's as if we are looking directly from the lower abdomen, not looking down from the head to the lower abdomen, or looking up even from the lower abdomen to the head. Actually being in the experience of the lower abdomen. Seeing, as it were, directly from there. And from the lower abdomen, expanding out to take in the body as a whole. So when we start to take in the body as a whole, how is it the body appears to us? Is it like our idea of the body as something that has a distinct outline, a distinct shape of heads and arms and legs and torso? If we drew the body as a whole on the sheet of paper, a blank sheet of paper, what would it look like? So not our idea of what the body looks like, but see if on that sheet of paper we can draw how the body is appearing to us at the moment. Does it really seem like that outlined, distinct whole, something solid? Or does it actually appear different to that? So we're looking from my direct experience. So what appears here at the moment is what's true for you at the moment. We're just trying to be clear whether this appearance of the body is actually an idea of the body or an experience of the body. And from that generalized awareness of the body, can we go to the edges of the body? So where do we actually experience the edge of the body? And can we, in direct experience, find a distinct edge to the body? It may be that the mind is saying there's a distinct edge to the body. But is that what we're actually experiencing? I'm going to some part of the body where we can feel some contact with another object. So ideal places where we feel the body touching the cushions or chair or whatever it is that we're sitting on. And taking a look at the edge of the body there. Again, how does that edge, or that supposed edge, appear in direct experience? Can we say that there's a clear boundary between the body and what we're sitting on? The mind, of course, will be saying that, but what is it when we look at it in direct experience? Can we even say where the body ends and the chair begins? Something is clearly going on in experience, but what is the directly perceived nature of that? Or perhaps that edge, or supposed edge, between the body and the chair appears as something more like a cloud of vibrational energy. And if that is the case, can we pick up on the direct vibrational energetic experience and simply be aware of that? And going a bit further, if it seems like there is no distinct boundary, edge to our direct experience of the body, what is it that's beyond that imagined boundary? Can we, as it were, feel beyond the supposed boundary of the body? And if we can, what's that experience like? Can we, looking in this way, really say that there is any difference between the experience of the supposed inside of the body and the supposed outside of the body? Or do they both appear the same? So just drawing that exercise to a close. Okay, what are we doing for time? Let's just have a few minutes for a chance to feedback from that exercise. Probably won't have time for more than just one or two of us to say something. So if anyone feels moved to, feel free, and just remember to unmute yourselves. John.
I noticed that my kind of mental image of my body is very neat and predictable, but actually the direct sensations are more kind of I don't want to say disorganized, but something like disorganized and patchy, and I feel more in certain parts of my body. Like I felt more on my left-hand side of my body than I did on the right.
Okay, yeah.
And it had gaps and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Who'd have thought it, eh? Huge gaps. Thanks, John. Shradalochini.
Yeah, it was a really lovely led meditation. Thank you so much, Naravira. My experience of edge was a grading out. So if you, as I could feel it, if the way I can explain it in words, it's a bit like there's a sort of rainbow going out, which is more and more and more and more diffuse. So I couldn't really say where the edge was, but I knew it was more and more and more diffuse. And when I looked at different areas, I mean, obviously of the body, but trying not to locate them in that way, that grading was different. It wasn't as if there was, red, yellow, blue. It moved quite an extraordinary amount of awareness beyond edge.
Yeah. I know you've done a lot of meditation, but was that a surprise to you at all?
I just haven't located that recently. So it was really nice to